All right, everybody. We are going to get started. Is Mayor Nutter here?
Right behind you, sir.
Okay, yeah. Just want to make sure you have my back.
Always, sir.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the U.S. Conference of Mayors 83rd Annual Meeting. And I want to start off by just acknowledging Mayor Ed Lee, who cannot be with us because he's celebrating the home team winning the NBA Finals. Him and Mayor Schaaf are over there with a parade, and I think we'll give them a pass, an excuse for their absence this morning. Mayor Lee and his staff have done truly a remarkable job of rolling out the red carpet here in San Francisco. So we're going to have a great Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. It's going to be an incredible conference. Also, before we get started, I think it's appropriate to say a word or two about this week's shooting in Charleston. We all here are heartbroken and grief-stricken for the people of Charleston and their families. We stand by our colleague, Mayor Riley, at this difficult time and offer our prayers and support. We're with you, Joe. Handle Charleston, anything we can do. Don't hesitate to call on us. He would want us to continue. He would say the show must go on. So we as mayors are going to do our part to have an incredible conference here. I want to thank our executive team, Vice President of Baltimore, Stephanie Rawlings Blake, and second Vice President, Oklahoma City Mayor Mick Cornett, for their incredible leadership throughout the year. I want to acknowledge our past presidents in attendance too. We have Mayor Nutter and Mayor Couch, so if we can give them a round of applause. And then our CEO and Executive Director, Tom Cochran, and his incredible staff for all the work they do. They deserve some kudos as well. The theme for my USCM presidency has been Cities 3.0, a new era of American cities, where cities are the hubs of innovation, of entrepreneurship, and technology. It's clear that cities are driving the recovery in this country, creating jobs, and growing the economy. To underscore all the incredible things happening in cities to drive our nation forward, we are unveiling our annual Metro Economies Report today that shows cities are coming back from recession in a major way. And this is a report. Everyone will get a chance to get a copy. I don't know if Mayor Coleman is here yet, who chairs this. We have a number of mayors who are happy to address this. But let me pull out a couple key data points for all of us. Last year, nearly all U.S. metros, 371 of the 381 experienced real economic growth. Our metro accounts for 91% of real gross domestic product, 91% of income, and 88% of jobs in our country. They also account for 94% of the nation's new jobs and 95% of increase of GDP. This recovery continues, and it continues because of the economic strength of our cities and metro areas. Because mayors understand better than any elected official at any level that our competition for investment is global, not just local. Consider 9 of the world's 40th highest producing economies are U.S. metro areas: L.A., New York, Chicago, Houston, Washington, D.C., Dallas, San Francisco, Philadelphia, and Boston. To put it in perspective, Chicago is larger than Ohio as a state and New Jersey. D.C. as a metro area is larger than Georgia. And if you think about countries, Atlanta is larger than Ireland, Singapore, and Israel. And Seattle and their metro area is larger than Hong Kong, the Philippines, and Egypt. So it is clear to all of us that cities and metro areas are the ones who get our country moving forward in a real way. We are global players, and is why mayors have been supportive of the recent trade legislation trying to make its way through Washington. We are in a bipartisan way supporting what needs to happen to create a trade bill that's fair and gives our president the authority to get things done. My senator, Barbara Boxer, and Mayor Cornett's senator, Jim Inhofe, are top leaders of the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, where they will unveil their bipartisan plan this Tuesday in Washington. And mayors at this conference, we stand with them as they ensure that the critical transportation investment is in place going forward. Let me give you a little bit about what's going to happen this week. We'll be talking about these issues and more. This meeting is about sharing successful ideas and recognizing the truly impactful work that mayors are already doing in their areas of housing and community development, veteran affairs, education, transportation, and public safety. We will also debate and vote on policy resolutions on water infrastructure, municipal bonds, trade, and others. Some cities will receive monetary awards for making major strides in the areas of climate protection and energy efficiency, workforce training and job creation, as well as creating programs to help stabilize challenging neighborhoods. We will highlight partnerships with private companies that want to help us better the communities in which they do business in. We will hear from some incredible speakers, and we're proud to say that later this afternoon, the President of the United States will be here joining us, and his administration has been true partners with America's mayors, and I think they deserve a round of applause for their commitment. I think most of you know and can smell the election year. It's here, and we're proud to say that presidential candidate Hillary Clinton will be here tomorrow, and another presidential candidate, Martin O'Malley, will be here on Sunday. And Mick, we invited the Republicans, and we couldn't quite get them here.
I don't think the hotel's big enough.
The hotel's not big enough. Perfect. That was good. Good. So the neat thing about us is we're a bipartisan organization, and we're committed to giving everyone a voice. We'll explore issues critical to cities throughout engaging speakers and panel discussions. We're also going to hear today from Nancy Pelosi, who reigns from this area, which we're really excited about. We're going to have a panel discussion on arts and politics. Carlos Santana, MC Hammer will be here, and they'll talk about the role art plays in politics and having discussions to convene people on really tough issues. We'll have education reform and national leaders with us. We'll be sharing on the economy and middle class with CEO of Airbnb, Brian Chesky and Gene Sperling, and many others. We'll dedicate a significant discussion to the defining issue of my presidency, and that's the issue of race and policing in our country. Several months ago, following the tragic shooting in Ferguson, I appointed a working group of mayors and police chiefs from around the country to develop a series of recommendations for local and national actions intended to improving policing in America. We know that what we really need in areas where folks feel forgotten and abandoned is equal opportunity for advancement and justice. And one of the mayors who knows this better than anyone is our next speaker. Mayor Rawlings Blake, she dealt firsthand with one of these tragic incidents in her cities and handled an incredibly difficult situation very deftly. I wanted to commend her for her work and her leadership. Folks, let's give a round of applause for our incoming president, SRB.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. President. It has been my pleasure to work with you, and I'm looking forward to having a very productive annual meeting. I want to thank our host, and I'm a little jealous that Mayor Lee is not here, not just because he won, but just because he has a basketball team to support. So, no, I would love to have a team here. Baltimore, we've talked about that. And I'm so grateful to be surrounded by some of the best leaders that we have here in our country. At a time where cities need strong leaders the most, this organization stands head and shoulders above so many others because of our advocacy and because of our track record for leading and not just talking in America. There are so many issues facing our country right now that require mayors to be on the front lines, doing what we do every day, rolling up our sleeves and getting the job done. This weekend, the U.S. Conference of Mayors continues its work developing and implementing a common sense agenda to address the major issues that face our cities, such as job creation and healing the divide between the community and the police. We also know, as the President just mentioned, that while there remain many difficulties throughout our country, our cities are really where it's at when it comes to job growth and job creation. We are experiencing tremendous job growth, including Baltimore, where our unemployment rate has been reduced by a third under my administration. But we know that we can do so much more. I have concerns, as many of our mayors do, about those who have been left behind in the recovery from the Great Recession. And we also know that a lot of the work that needs to be done in our country remains focusing on healing the divide between the community and the police. Mayors are uniquely qualified to do this work. And what we saw in Baltimore, where I've reduced the number of lawsuits against the police department for brutality, for in-custody deaths, for discourtesy, all of those things have been trending downward significantly under my administration. We were out in the community, before Michael Brown, before these other incidents, having conversations with our community members, because I knew that if we were going to be a safer city in a way that was sustainable, we had to be in communication with with the residents of our city, try to figure out how we can do things better, work together better. And in spite of all of this work, you saw that the unrest still happened in our city. Police chiefs all across our country understand that while it happened in Ferguson, while it happened in Baltimore, it can happen anywhere. And we as mayors, in this time where I think that our country is at a crossroads when it comes to that relationship between the community and police, we stand ready to lead. We stand ready to work in partnership with our federal partners to make sure that the resources that cities need get to us and our residents. And I'm looking forward to having these very difficult but very timely discussions during the meeting in the next few days. Again, I want to thank our president and our second vice president, as these issues know no party. I'm looking forward to having some great dialogue, sharing best practices, and grabbing some ideas that I can take home and call my own. Thank you very much.
All right, you know we got a rock star here in Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake, so let's give her another round of applause. And I was thinking, since you don't have a basketball team, and Sacramento does, you can maybe root for the Kings.
Okay, I can do that.
We'll just make you an honorary fan.
I'm ready.
Okay, all right, good. Speaking of mayors who have basketball teams, I'd love to bring up our second VP, Mayor Cornett, who's been an unbelievable leader. And when we talk about an organization having bipartisan, you have no idea the discussions that happen behind the scenes of us going back and forth. But when we come out, we as mayors stand together to get things done in a real way. And I think people in Washington certainly appreciate it. And your leadership has been very critical. Mayor Cornett.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I stand today with the opportunity to speak on behalf of Mayor de Blasio. How is that? Mayor de Blasio and I co-chair a mayoral effort to draw attention to the nation's needs on infrastructure. He and I gathered in Washington along with a large collection of mayors from around the country to call on the American people, to call their elected leaders in Washington and insist that this become a priority for our country. I believe the infrastructure, deferred maintenance that currently exists in our cities is a ticking time bomb that is only one by one going to be handed off to our kids if we don't immediately start to address some of these needs. And so I, on behalf of Mayor de Blasio, am urging the media here today to help bring the wishes of America's mayors, that we know all about tough choices. We know it's not going to be easy to fund some of these infrastructure needs that exist, but we've got to figure out a way to do it. We've got to come together, and Kevin mentioned that we each have a senator fighting for this cause. Senator Inhofe, the Republican from Oklahoma, and Senator Boxer, the Democrat from California, are leading a key committee in Washington to try and draw their connected legislative leaders to figure out a way to fund infrastructure going forward. You can talk about infrastructure in a lot of different ways. It also means putting America to work. There's a lot of jobs associated with increased infrastructure spending. But we cannot hand off the infrastructure deferred maintenance to the next generation anymore. We've got to take responsibility as elected leaders, draw attention to this, and get Congress to act. With that, I will thank the media for coming out in such full force this morning. I know you have a variety of options of stories to cover this morning in the Bay Area, and it makes us feel good as mayors to come together as we do once a year, and we feel very welcome in San Francisco, so thank you.
Mayor, but we need to wait to see what they write before we tell them how good they've made us feel.
I was trying to butter them up a little bit, yeah.
All right, what we're going to do, media, if you guys are ready to ask a couple questions, when you do ask your question, we're going to ask you to identify yourself. Please make your question succinct. But before we do that, I want to introduce the unbelievable panel of mayors that we have here. So I'm going to give you the mic, and we'll just pass it around. You can say your city and your name. I got it. I'm the point guard. I got it.
Good morning. Carol Dutra-Vernacci, Mayor of Union City, right across the bay.
Good morning. Mayor of Piedmont, Margaret Fujioka.
Good morning. Bill Wild, Mayor of the City of Westland, Michigan.
Greg Fisher, Mayor of Louisville.
Ed Pulowski, Mayor of Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Pedro Segarra, Mayor of Hartford, Connecticut.
John Giles, Mayor of Mesa, Arizona.
Brian Barnett, Mayor of Rochester Hills, Michigan.
Brian Waller, the Mayor of Piscataway Township, New Jersey.
Frank County, the Mayor of Des Moines, Iowa, and probably part of the reason the Republicans are not here, they all have taken up residence in Iowa.
Darrell Lindbergh, Mayor of the great city of Loves Park, Illinois.
Mike Nutter, Mayor of the City of Philadelphia.
I'm Steve Benjamin, the Mayor of Columbia, South Carolina.
I'm Roy Buell, the Mayor of Dubuque, Iowa.
Elizabeth Kautz, Mayor of Burnsville, Minnesota.
Frank Ortis, Mayor of the City of Pembroke Pines, Florida.
Hello, Pauline Cutter, Mayor of San Leandro, California, right across the bay.
Hi, Nancy Terralukans, Mayor of Eden Prairie, Minnesota.
Jim Hovland, Mayor of Edina, Minnesota.
Miguel Polito, Mayor of Santa Ana.
Bill Bell, Mayor of the City of Durham, North Carolina.
Barbara Halliday, Mayor of Hayward, California.
Carl Sherman, Mayor of the City of DeSoto, Texas.
John Rhodes, Mayor of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Lindsay Horvath, Mayor of West Hollywood, California.
Jason Pooh, Mayor of San Gabriel, California.
All right, media, if you're ready, we'll take a couple questions. Yes, sir, your name and your question.
My name is Tim Redmond with 48hills.org, a
Perfect.
startup daily newspaper in San Francisco, online daily newspaper. My question is, in the wake of the tragic shootings we're all aware of this week, will the mayors be talking about and taking any leadership on the issue of gun control?
All right, does anybody want to address this?
It's not a new issue.
Go ahead.
This issue is certainly not a new issue. I'm Michael Nutter, past president of the City of Philadelphia. The issue of gun safety, which is what we're really talking about, is certainly not a new issue for the U.S. Conference of Mayors. We've taken strong positions on gun safety and smart gun regulations for a long, long period of time. We respect the Second Amendment of the United States, but speaking now for myself, I've always maintained that I had a First Amendment right not to be shot. So we believe in the aftermath, many of us believed in the aftermath of the tragedy in Sandy Hook, that action would be taken to ensure that people are safe, that children are safe, that adults are safe. And as the President said, our hearts are with our Dean of Mayors, Mayor Joe Riley, and the great folks in Charleston. It is unimaginable, just as it was in Sandy Hook, that someone would shoot 20 children and their teachers in a school. It's equally unimaginable that someone would shoot kill 9 people in a church. What safer two places could there be than an elementary school or a church. And so I would expect that there would be a significant amount of conversation given the events of just the past day or so. But unfortunately, this is not a new occurrence. Issues of violence in the United States of America, 29 to 31 people are murdered every day in the United States. And we need to stay focused on this issue, not only when there are unbelievable tragedies, but the day-to-day issues that go on in our country. Lastly, I thought it important that President Obama, in his comments, re-raised the issue of gun safety and violence in the United States of America. It is not only a debate that needs to continue, but more importantly, to save lives, action needs to be taken. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Mayor. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Katie Udis with ABC 7. You point to those prior conversations that happened following Sandy Hook. Can any of the mayors point to actions that have been taken to prevent gun violence or to decrease it in your cities?
All right, I'm going to bring Mayor Benjamin up, and if there's another mayor who wants to address it. Yep.
I want to speak very directly to the fact that this organization has a history of stepping into the breach on tough topics, often topics that can be definitely avoided in Washington, D.C. and other places, even in state capitals across our country. I'm Steve Benjamin. I'm the mayor of Columbia, South Carolina. And we're an hour from Charleston. The shooter in this situation was a native of our city. Have personal ties to several of those who were killed in Charleston. Reverend and Senator Pinckney had been a friend since he was a teenager, and I was a legislative aide at the state capitol, and he was the chief page at the State House, and we've watched him grow into an incredible young man. Many of you have read a great deal about Mother Emanuel AME Church. This is a historic church in every sense of the word, and this was an intentional act of racial terrorism. The important thing, and the point I want to make here is that we'll have several conversations about gun control, about race and race relations in my home state. We'll be talking about the Confederate flag and all these other issues. I believe the most important thing that we can do as leaders and as mayors is continuously work to elevate the debate, elevate the level and tone of our discourse, and continue to elevate the substance of our discourse. It's so easy to be distracted by the shiny object in the corner, the flag, or more legislation around gun control or some other issues. We have to continue to work on the policies that we're working on here. And this organization has taken a strong stand on the issue of gun control. We continue to work every single day on issues of social justice and criminal justice and investing in education and making sure people have good jobs. That's the work of this body that makes me very proud to be an active member of this organization. We've got to keep doing that work while at the very same time continuing to elevate the tone, the level of discourse, and the quality of civil discourse in this country has reached a bottom, and we've got to see it raised. That's why I love being with these men and these women, Republicans and Democrats and independents alike, because we do that. I think that needs to be, and I certainly know that my dear friend, the dean of our organization, Joe Riley, would appreciate that as well. Let's raise the level of discourse. Let's continue focusing on the issues that matter, that change people's lives and help make the American dream real to all of us. Thank you.
All right, Mayor, come on up, make a comment. We're going to make our remarks short and then try to get two more questions, then we got to get on with our day.
Just quickly, one of the best things about the conference is that it brings mayors together. So this morning, the mayor of New Haven, Tony Hart, Mayor Finch, and I, putting together a conversation between the mayors of Connecticut's larger cities to compare notes and see what has happened or what is happening, that each one of our cities is seeing an increase in gun violence. The other thing is that this conversation is also not separate from the conversations about empowering people, especially in urban areas, who are still facing issues of unemployment, issues of educational success, issues regarding how do we really make the investments in our cities that also connect to the chance that they have in life so that they don't have to turn to violence. And along with that issue is how do we deal with our reentry population? Many states are decreasing significantly their prison populations, but many of the urban areas are now having to provide services still with the very limited budgets that they have.
Thank you. All right, we'll take 2 more questions. Yes, sir.
Business exchange. How are you going to balance the budget between we are at war? America is at war, but we do need to have infrastructure jobs in our communities. How will you mayors work with Congress to make sure communities don't get left behind?
I think when you have an organization that prides itself on its nonpartisanship, that works in bipartisan ways, I think we are uniquely positioned to be a voice of advocacy, that common sense voice that clearly Congress needs today. There's no doubt that the jobs that we're fighting for when it comes to infrastructure, it just makes sense. Not much time passes by when you hear from one jurisdiction or another about a bridge failure or a highway that's in disrepair or an airport that looks like it should be in a second or third world country and not reflective of the greatest country in the world. And when you hear from Republican mayors that are singing out of that same hymnal, talking about the fact that, you just heard Mayor Cornett. When you have those conversations, I think that it starts to resonate with the people, and hopefully it will percolate up to Congress. We have to figure out a way, working together, for the Congress to get out of these this partisan gridlock and into a bipartisan partnership for the greater good of our country.
All right, last question from anybody on this side? Going once, going twice. So on behalf of all the mayors, we want to thank you so much for coming. We're going to have a great 4 days. And your questions were helpful, but we are the problem solvers. I do believe that mayors are the action heroes in the country. We don't just talk about it, we get things done, and I'm proud to have been the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. So thank you very much.